Welcome, everyone. This is another installation of our top caller of the week. I'm really excited to be joined by one of our top callers on our one of our cybersecurity campaigns, Dave. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Hey, good. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. I've been really excited to chat with you about sort of your experience on Glencoco because you're selling for like a pretty sophisticated product right now. And for them, and I know that like the customer is extremely happy with the kind of meeting flow and deal flow they've been getting. And I'm excited to chat about your experience on Glencoco. Um, I think to start, what would be really interesting to know is how did you how did tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Tell us about sort of your sales journey, and then also keen to know sort of how you came across Glencoco and what prompted the decision to kind of get started on here.
Well, my background is I do have several years of cyber experience, so really hands-on analyst as well as solution architect, trainer, range instructor, where I trained people in a range as far as people who actually were heavy-duty cyber users and cyber analysts, how to use different tools, techniques, and so on. And I also did sales. I once was selling Microsoft Dynamics, which is an ERP system, for anybody that doesn't know that. Enterprise resource planning. It's really everything from general ledger and manufacturing, distribution, just really everything that runs a business as far as financially, or as far as just hands-on. I guess making sure that everything is running properly and running in sync. So I was working with a company that was a value-added reseller for a number of years. So I did some sales. It's definitely more sales-oriented than my later position, where I was an analyst, solution architect. So I've got experience in both areas of cyber as far as sales and really knowing a bit about cyber from a hands-on perspective, actually working like deep in the weeds with different cyber tools. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And so, this is like, so you basically you're super deep and like, your experiences in the cyber vertical. And then how did you come across Glencoco, and what prompted you to give it a shot?
I just did a search, and I was looking for something that I could do some sales. I could have some flexibility, as I've got some other projects that I have been working on for quite a while now, a number of months. And I thought, well, this could be a good fit, where I could work around my own schedule. I could make some sales. I could use my knowledge to promote, say, a business. And I've been working primarily on cyber type, I guess, campaigns, mostly, which is vulnerability remediation. So that's kind of right up my alley. So I know how to talk about that. I know what people's objections may be. I know how to present it from a technical standpoint, but mostly it's about just getting them in front of a more technical person who knows the product better, which is themselves. So yeah, so I went looking for that online. I managed to find somebody that was doing work with Glencoco, who was actually promoting the Glencoco platform as the campaign. I'm trying to remember his name, but it's not coming to me right now. But yeah, I reached out to him. He gave me the contact information, and that's kind of how I got started.
That's awesome. Well, thank God, because we're really lucky to have you. I'd love to kind of click into sort of what was your experience like onboarding? So from when you showed up, right? You signed up on Glencoco. Did you already know of the cybersecurity campaign kind of coming in, or were you just kind of keen to see what kind of campaigns we had on the platform? What was your experience like from like signing up to making your first call?
Signing up was pretty smooth. Once I got in contact with, I think it was Jerome, was probably one of the first people I actually spoke with. Very helpful. I believe he's in Philippines, but he really kind of knows the whole platform inside and out. And he's very helpful he knows how to like kind of navigate everything. So that was definitely very helpful in onboarding and kind of getting situated. And also just the platform is pretty straightforward. I think for some people who aren't that tech savvy, it might be a little bit of a learning curve. But I've worked with very complex systems, so it really was it just looked normal to me. So I just took it and ran with it. So I got off to a pretty good start out of the gate, and I've found a lot of help from you, from Ingwan, from Jerome, of course. I think CJ, I haven't really interacted with CJ, but behind the scenes, I think he's done a good job. And everybody else on the team has actually done excellent.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for that. Shout out Jerome whenever you watch this. He's a rock star, and our team is really invested in the success of callers. But something I'd like to double click on is you said that it helped that you had experience with previous sales tools. I guess you've used CRM tools before and sales tools before in a different capacity. And do you feel like that experience did that play a role in making sort of the landing on Glencoco much smoother?
I think so. I mean, I used let's see, Salesforce. Of course, I sold Microsoft Dynamics, which had a CRM, or probably still has a CRM attached to it.
Yes, it does.
For their suite. So I knew how to kind of manipulate that program, that kind of stuff. I used it, track my progress, my contacts, my calls, everything to do with any conversations I had. So I already knew kind of how to work in that system. I've actually developed some I guess you would call it kind of like a single pane of glass in Microsoft Access. So I've developed my own databases and kind of customized that, so I could track things outside of licensed products like Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce, etc.
Right.
So I am pretty good with Excel as well. Just doing pivot charts, things like that. I could pretty much. I've got so many Excel spreadsheets that I don't even know where to look. I have to kind of index everything. So I think I have a bit of an advantage. I think as far as being knowledgeable as far as databases go. I've worked with SQL,
Right.
things like that. So it's really second nature to me.
Got it. And so in terms of this is I'd like to come back to the tools, but let's talk about so after you started making dials on Glencoco, right? Clearly, your experiences in cybersecurity, you got on a cybersecurity campaign like vulnerability remediation, and you were able to achieve success pretty quick. I'd love to kind of get a sense for what has the ROI been like for you? How much time have you been spending on the Glencoco platform, and are you kind of happy with the ROI that you've been receiving from it?
Well, to be honest, it really depends on the lead quality and the number of leads. Sometimes the number of callers as well. I started out very quickly. I think some days there were actually 3 days I can count in memory that I got a demo set up on my first call of the day. And I was just like, wow, this is a pretty good day. But then you can't really expect that. It might take 40, 60, 80, 100 calls to get a demo, but you just keep at it. The dialer is very efficient. If you want to do auto dialing, it pretty much does the work for you. You just, when somebody picks up, you start talking, and hopefully they are receptive. If they're not, you move on to the next one. It's automatic. You can also do targeted dialing, which is where you just kind of do it yourself. You don't really have it automated, so you can do that. I've also found that I have uploaded my own leads, my own lead list. I'm working on those right now. So I started out really quickly. I've had projects that I've been working on outside of this. So I've had several weeks where I haven't been really fully engaged in it. But there are times when I'm really engaged. So I think that's where the strength is, where you can kind of make your own schedule. You can really be intense when you want to, and you can kind of drop off a little bit when you really need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the ability to flexibly work, I think what we're realizing is people like you that have sort of expertise selling selling into a particular vertical, like hyper specialized expertise, when we have a campaign that sort of meets that, you're able to come on and, you know, the burden on you is not to like learn how to become a salesperson or even learn how to like become a cybersecurity salesperson. You're already that, like, you know how to sell like the cyber product. Like all you need is like a quick reorientation into, hey, here's how you sell this particular one. Like, here's what's unique about this one. And then here's how you use the Glencoco dialer, and you're able to get off to the races, right? And I'm keen to know, like, it, you know, when you're in your dialing sessions, you mentioned that the dialer is efficient. How do you benchmark that? Like, what do you mean by that? Could you expand on that a little bit more?
Well, the auto dialer is it cycles through several potential calls at the same time. It just rings these different, I guess, prospects, and then the first one it picks up is the one that you talk to, so you can actually hear it. Oh, somebody's picking up, and then you address them by name. There's a couple seconds delay, so you just say, "Oh, this is James. Oh yeah, James. Good to talk to you. I just want to introduce myself," or whatever your pitch is. So the auto dialers, I use a targeted dial where I have my own leads at this point. I'm kind of working on those. I kind of know what titles get traction for the most part, and size of companies. I've been very, I guess, channeled into which size companies are ideal for this particular campaign, and they do publish that. So the company that is actually they're the client of Glencoco. They'll tell you exactly, here's a pitch, here's a sample pitch, here's the type of client we want, here's the title, and if I can find those people and just kind of target them, then it's much more efficient. So, but they, the way that I guess Glencoco works with these clients, they already are finding the correct people to actually reach out to. So that makes it, you know, you don't really have to get your own leads. It's already there.
Right. And that for us is like a cornerstone, right? Like, and I've said this on a couple of other conversations like this, where our thesis is like good callers like yourself, right? Good sales tech, and we're hoping to build like an efficient dialer, a good CRM. Like, you know, we think we're in the right spot. Like, it's got it's like we're maximizing the number of conversations you're able to have within a dialing session, because we're like, when you're using our auto dialer, for instance, we're not even connecting you on when a dial hits someone's voicemail, right? We're only putting you on when like a real person picks up, because our AI is able to filter that out. And then lastly, but and this is like another core piece of it, is we're really obsessed with lead quality. So we're like constantly, you know, we're having conversations with you, we're listening to you about your reports on lead quality, we're looking at your dispositions, but we're also working with our customers to be like, hey man, like, if you've given us a leads list, like, this is how many of these leads that actually we think fit your ICP, right? And that's and those three things together is what makes what makes a good sort of a good system, if you ask me. I would love to kind of talk a little bit about the numbers, right? Your lifetime earnings on Glencoco have been $4,500, and I would love to kind of understand, what does your time commitment look like on Glencoco? Like, how much time have you been spending on the platform on like an hourly basis? Like, you know, how many hours a week? You know.
Well, I started out doing maybe 4 hours a day, and now it just varies. I have projects and I have other kind of obligations as well. So it really varies. This past week was July 4th, and a lot of people are off and, you know, vacation, this kind of thing. So I kind of, you know, adjust my schedule towards that, and I get other things done, while I know that, you know, most people are just not going to be around to pick up the phone, or they don't want to be picking up the phone because they may be on vacation. They actually pick up their cell phone. But when they're at work, like this week, everybody should be back to work, I hope. And that's when I kind of target it a bit more intensely. So so it really varies as far as time commitment, but you know, some days I actually do over 100 calls, and other days I might only get 10. So it's such a variation, but that's the beauty of it, is I can really tailor my schedule around you know, what I actually have to do outside of Glencoco. So it's great.
Yeah, that's excellent. So I mean, in May, I see that you have something like 2,800. You've made like you made $2,800 in the month of May, and sounds like you were working maybe like 3 to 4 hours like on the dials, and that too was like maybe not every single day, maybe like some days on, some days off. And for us, like we really want to make it painless, right? Like it's got to be something that where the math for you, you come out of it being like, yeah, this was worth my time, right? And do you feel like it has been worth your time thus far?
I think so. Yeah, it's a pretty efficient system. I wrapped my head around it. It's really, to me, it's not very complex. I think you guys have done a tremendous job really kind of rolling this out and really kind of being attentive to all our concerns about new features, about explaining how different features work and why they work the way they do. I would say for the most part, I haven't really seen a lot of other like applications or businesses like this that really have their finger on the pulse of the people who are actually bringing in the money, and that's where the beauty is. I think they've done a really good job as far as being receptive to new ideas, being efficient, making this as painless as possible, making it as, I guess, lucrative as possible for people that actually have that ability and are dedicated. And I think that's pretty much the way to sum it up, is that I've found it to be a very, very good platform, very, very good team, you included, of course, and everybody I've talked to, worked with at Glencoco has been very, very on the ball to make sure we got what we need.
Appreciate it. So I'm actually, so one of the things that we're working on, right, and this is just new ground on. We know that you have like cybersecurity experience, for instance, and right now you're working on one of the cyber campaigns, and we're working on sort of bringing on campaigns. Sort of how we're thinking about our customer acquisition exercise is we're thinking about it in verticals, right? Because for us, it's like, hey, we have someone like yourself that's like talented and able to sell like fairly technical cyber products. Why don't we bring more of them on? All right, and that's sort of what we're looking at right now. Do you see a world where sort of your time, the time you spend on Glencoco scales up the more sort of cybersecurity campaigns we bring on? Would that be something of like interest to you? And have you thus far kind of taken advantage of the flexibility or the ability to work across different campaigns, or have you just been working one right now?
For the most part, this one we did have a company called which is a different type of cyber product. It's for response, and they, I think they were targeting a larger clientele as far as like size of company, and they're a bit more difficult to reach. And I know campaigns come and go, and I think that it was a bit challenging, even with my knowledge, and also there weren't that many callers doing it. But Vicarious actually has a good proportion of, or number of people that are actually dialing in, making calls, making setting up appointments, and you don't really have to be, I don't think, super technical, but I think if you really want to like take it a step further and talk to these people, the prospects, it helps to kind of know a bit more in depth about what does this product do. If they say, oh, I'm using and you can ask them what it is, but sometimes it's good to actually know who they are and what they do and how they're different. I've kind of made a mind map of different objections, as well as some of the competitive landscape info. So I have it at my fingertips. So that kind of helps me if they say, oh yeah, I'm using Microsoft one of their products, and I can just kind of pull it up and say, oh, I click this and I say, oh, okay, let me tell you a couple of things that are different about, So that definitely helps. It really depends on how deep you want to get into it, but the different cyber, I think there's another one that Ingwan mentioned, another cyber company that they may be bringing on, and they're all different. they're in a different kind of subspace, so to speak, within cyber. But it's all, if you kind of speak the language, you can kind of pick it up pretty quickly.
I think, it's interesting to me what you were saying about, like, do you say CASIA?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like, have you heard of this thing called a shibboleth?
I kind of know that word a bit. Yeah.
The word in and of itself, like, doesn't hold any intrinsic meaning. It was just it's this thing of like how a couple of tribes use that word to identify. It's like this, what is like an identifier that you could use to like have someone belong to a group. It's because, like, back in the day there were these two neighboring village tribes that were at war, but they were like the same people, they all looked the same, so the only way they could tell a difference is how they pronounce this one word. Like, one group of them pronounced it Sibboleth and one of them pronounced it Shibboleth. And to me, I feel like, knowledge of the space and like knowledge of the tools, or being able to broker recognition, right? When someone says like CASIA and you're like, you're not like, hey, what is that? You're like, oh, okay, you use CASIA, right? Like, there's a difference there. And I feel like, given your cybersecurity experience and like your knowledge of the space, you're able to sort of broker, like, broach familiarity with the prospect, and the prospect hears this, right? Like, the prospect's like, oh, the guy on the other side kind of groks what I'm doing in general, and I think that goes a long way. And I think your cybersecurity experience it really helps give you a leg up in that sense, right? Do you find that in terms of, like, you mentioned lead quality, right? Do you find that when it comes to like cyber sales specifically, right? What are some things that you keep in mind, like when you're reaching out to those leads? Like, is that opener, that outreach to like a cybersecurity prospect, are they typically more wary of cold calls? Like, what is that? What does it look like when you're trying to like just breaking into that group of people, or like you're trying to like interject into the middle of their day with a cold call, right? What does that look like?
Tech people are notoriously not as, I guess, friendly as one word. I probably shouldn't use that word, but they're not as people oriented as people in other, like, real estate. Very different. Two different, very, very different types of people. So you have to be very, very on the mark as far as like something they're interested in. You have to really kind of get off to a quick start. You have to really respect their time and know that they are busy, probably like putting out fires and stopping like a ransomware attack or something like that,
Right.
or even like something lower level, but they still are like knee deep in work. Catching them at the right time is just kind of a trick that sometimes you call different times of the day to the same person. You might just happen to reach them at the end of the day when they're wrapping things up. Or even beginning of the day, or lunch. It's really a timing aspect that's coming into play here. But as far as like reaching out to them, yeah, they don't. A lot of them really do not like cold calls, and they'll say so. And they say to me, for example, "Oh yeah, you're calling me on my cell phone. I don't take cold calls on my cell phone." I say, "Oh, okay. I'll call you on your business phone. Do you have a business line, or do you have some kind of direct line?" And sometimes they'll say, "Well, yeah." But then they'll engage in a conversation and say, "Oh, what are you calling about?" And then that opens it up. So it's, "Oh, okay.
Right.
What is my? Oh, yeah. Never heard of them. Have you?" Because that answer is probably going to be no, because we're introducing in North America. So it opens up a conversation, and then I've got my bullet points that I work with if I kind of know a little bit about like their title and what they exactly do and what kind of company they are, and I can kind of pivot into something that is more of interest to them and say, "Oh, okay, which of these companies are you using, or can you even say?" I know we're very secretive in this business, and you can't give away any kind of trade secrets or knowledge about how your networks are set up. So I just want to ask you a general question. Are you one of these three companies, using one of these three companies? And sometimes I'll say yes. So I can narrow it down to like, oh yeah, I know what my pitch is going to be. But I try to keep it short and sweet because they are very like, they're not going to be just talking about the baseball game or the weather. They just want to talk about, okay, what are you selling? and how's it benefit me? So I get right to the point.
Well, you know what? We're coming up on time here, and I want to switch back to sort of talking about your experience with Glencoco. Do you have like something that you wish you'd known, or like you'd wish that someone had told you before you got on the platform? And this is for like those of the people watching that might have cyber experience. They're like, what should I try this out? Like, do you wish there was something you knew or something you'd been told before you hopped on Glencoco?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I would say that it's been a fairly quick learning experience for me, but everybody's been helpful at guiding me through whatever questions I had. I know I bothered Jerome a whole lot. I think lately I haven't been bothering so much, but in the beginning I was just like, oh, how does this work? Why is this happening? And he was very good at walking me through everything or pointing me in the right direction. So yeah, I don't think there's anything that really surprises me or has kind of gotten me off guard or that I didn't know about, from just kind of working in the platform. So it's been pretty quick and pretty painless, actually.
That's lovely to hear. And like, again, like, for us, it's never a bother. Like for us, like you bug us as much as you want because it's not bugging us. Like for us, we're honored. Like if someone's taken time out of their day to tell me like how I can improve my product or my service, like that to me is like a godsend. So, never think twice about bugging us. Jerome is happy to hear from you. We're happy to hear from you. Like it's never a bother. And then lastly, my last thing for you would be like, for those of the people watching that might be considering Glencoco or like thinking of potentially checking us out, what would be some advice you'd give to them?
Just maybe go onto the Glencoco site and just see what companies they're working with as far as like who they're reaching out to. See if there's like maybe something that kind of aligns with either your experience or interest. If you're interested in whatever real estate, or if you're interested in cybersecurity or something else technical, or automotive, or anything that really kind of speaks to you, just kind of check it out and maybe focus on that in the beginning and say, okay, well, I want to actually call out to that campaign because I kind of know a little bit about it, or I just like that whole space. And then kind of get in touch with Glencoco and see if maybe there's you can do you can test it out, like as far as like just doing like a what do you call it, and not an interview. I guess it is an interview. It's like a preliminary interview where you actually kind of do the like pitch and mock call, and then if they say yes, you sound like you could probably do this efficiently and make some money at it, then we'd like to have you. So check it out. Make sure that you find something initially that kind of rocks your world, and just go for that.
Well, that's awesome. And on that note, Dave, well, you're our caller of the week. Thank you so much for taking the time to hop on this call with me. You've been crushing it on the cybersecurity campaign that we have. We can't wait. We literally have a couple of other cybersecurity campaigns in the wings that we're waiting to launch, and I'm sure you're going to hop on there and crush it too. Until I'm sure we're going to meet again on the next caller stand up. But until then, have a great weekend, and you go Glencoco.